There are tons of animes out there like Naruto, Dragon Ball Z, Bleach, Death Note, Evangelion, etc. that are all really good and people love to watch, but there's an anime out there that is just as good, if not better, than some of these animes that none of you guys will ever watch. By the way, before we get started with today's video, I just want to ask you guys for future anime video suggestions. As you know, I read every single comment, and I also upload weekly, and the last anime video I made, you guys really enjoyed, so I just want to ask you guys for anime suggestions, because that seems like the right thing to do. I'm not watching One Piece though. Now, before you go guessing which anime I'm talking about, just stop. You're not gonna guess it because you probably haven't even heard of it. I know you might be expecting some of the regular so-called hidden gems like Fooly Cooly, Evangelion, Future Diary, One Out, or the Ping Pong anime, and all of those are really good anime, but the one I'm talking about today is practically unheard of. But unlike most unheard of animes, this one is actually good. Obviously, there are a lot of anime that exist that are unheard of, and I could just pick up a random one and make a video on, but most of these animes aren't good at all. In fact, they're bad. But the anime I'm talking about today is not only good, it's actually amazing and one of my favorites. The anime I'm talking about is called Akagi. Akagi is an amazing anime. It takes place in 1960s Japan shortly after the war during a Great Depression. It starts with Yakuza Mafia members gambling with some guy who is trying to make enough money to survive. Man starts losing all of his money when suddenly this dripping wet kid comes out of nowhere like Lucas in Smash 4. This kid somehow knows exactly what to do because he tells the dude how to win against the Yakuza. Eventually the kid starts gambling with the Yakuza members himself about as balls out as you could possibly be. The anime is pretty much about this kid right here being the most fearless human being in existence, betting his life on multiple occasions. This anime is just a giant roller coaster ride of this little kid getting himself into the most intense situations on the planet. The writing in this anime is also on par with Death Note, so the intensity makes it hard not to binge watch all in one day. Now you're probably thinking, hey, this doesn't sound like that bad of an anime, why would I never watch that? Well, the truth is, it's not hard to watch or anything, it's just about mahjong. Hey, wait, this isn't the mahjong on your grandma's Windows 95 computer or anything though, this is gangster Yakuza mahjong. So I know a lot of you guys probably understand why you'll never watch Akagi now, but just hear me out, I promise it's worth it. Let me just preface this by saying, I do not know how to play Mahjong. I just know that it's 4 players and it's kind of similar to poker because of hand building, and your discarded tiles can be played into your opponent's hands. You honestly don't even need to know that because the anime has good enough writing for you to know what's going on the entire time without having to have extensive knowledge on Mahjong. Basically, if you could just remember that it's kinda like Japanese poker, then you could easily keep up with what's going on the entire time. You may be wondering how a game like Mahjong could possibly be entertaining, but you gotta remember this is an anime, first of all. There's an anime about a fishing club, for goodness sake. Also, you gotta remember these people are gambling their lives. So this isn't just some random board game, these people have their entire lives on the line and they're doing anything they possibly can to win, which results in a lot of insane desperation plays among other intense situations. The atmosphere of this anime is really immersive, so you get invested into the characters even though their lives are being gambled over something you don't understand, which sometimes just makes it more intense. Not to mention there are usually multiple layers of gameplay and thoughts that the characters are having anyway, so even if you knew how to play Mahjong, you probably wouldn't be able to predict what happens next. And not to mention, the times where what happens in the game is actually important for you to know, it's always explained very well in a concise manner. But anyways, enough talking about Mahjong. While obviously it's important to the anime, and the main reason why most people won't watch Akagi, it's mostly just used as a battleground between the opponents. But that's not even the main appeal of this anime. There are tons of things that make this anime amazing, but the main reason this anime is one of my favorites is because of the intense pacing of the story. There are no slow points the entire time, and there's nothing expected either. Every time you get a feel as to how the story is going to go, another twist is thrown in, turning everything upside down like Die Rise on Black Ops 2. It doesn't seem like the type of show you get into super hard, but the way everything is introduced really gives you no choice. The art style also complements the intensity of the anime, making you even more immersed into the gambling Yakuza underworld of Akagi. Speaking of gambling though, I just bet my entire life savings on this horse racing website I found the other day. Since I just got scammed out of my entire life savings, it's time to talk about today's video sponsor. Today's video is sponsored by my Discord. Join it, please. Anyway, instead of getting into the art style myself and explaining how it adds to the intensity of the anime, I'm going to introduce you to my friend YourBeed, who has done similar videos before.
The art style for Akagi is similar to that of Fukumoto's other works. Looking at his works, they all deal with some troubled protagonist with little prospects. For example, there's Kaiji the loser, Kurosawa the 44-year-old unmarried virgin, Guy, a kid being charged for murder, and Akagi, a delinquent on the run. Because of this, the art style comes off a little grotesque and weird. Everyone appears ugly because that's what the world is like. Fukumoto's works deal with protagonists being dealt a bad hand, and how society is in some way against them. Kaiji is known for how harshly it treats its protagonist. And the plot of Buraiden Guy is all about a man risking everything to ruin someone else's life. When the world around these characters appears extremely corrupt, It makes sense why the art style is the way that it is. Character design can be great when a character looks cool or pretty, but it can also be good if it enhances the experience. Looking at Fukumoto's art style, it's easy to point at it and say that it's ugly, but how it displays a disgusting world by portraying everyone with his signature art style is good character design. It really adds the ugliness to everyone. This kind of art style isn't meant to look appealing, it's meant to make you feel. Fukumoto's works are extremely visceral, as it should be when dealing with highly suspenseful and emotional points. It's hard to talk about Fukumoto's art style without mentioning his metaphors. Although a lot more muted in Akagi, the metaphors still shine through bright. When first coming across Fukumoto, these metaphors felt like padding. However, upon a rewatch, it was clear that it's directly tied to its suspenseful pacing and its art style. These metaphors relish wordplay, often taking a statement by characters and having them act it out as literally as possible. Because of this, the art style and metaphors are both exaggerated and emphasize the point being made. They're the few things that make Fukumoto's work so iconic. The metaphors are often striking imagery, letting you into the characters' minds and see how they feel. Especially in Akagi, where half the time most of the characters' faces look neutral because they need to keep a poker face. It's not just effective, it's crucial to the pacing and look of the story. Akagi is a very crazy story, and the art style and intense metaphors are meant to display that. Without the metaphors exaggerating the world, it lacks the nuance of a character's emotions. Viewers can be left feeling confused simply looking at characters with blank emotions. And without the metaphors exaggerating the world, the thriller and mind games aspect of Fukumoto's works fall apart. I have a few more things to mention about the art style that you can find on my channel. However, I will warn you that there are some spoilers, so please watch Kaiji and Akagi if you haven't already. Anyways, thanks for having me, pal.
Thanks, YourBeed. Go check out YourBeed after this. He's the homie and he makes really good YouTube videos. And they're about anime. So obviously the art style is really good and I personally really enjoy it, but the art style on top of the intensely fast pacing is what ties it together so nicely. Another big aspect of Akagi that I really like is the concept of the flow of the game. So the flow of the game is pretty much the momentum of the game relative to who's winning and who's making the big plays. Akagi himself makes tons of really high risk, high reward plays and they work because the flow of the game is usually in his favor. It's a complicated concept in all honesty, but I'll try to explain it as best I can. If the flow of the game is against you, then you don't want to make any unnecessary dumb plays, but you do want to take any opportunity you can to get ahead, obviously. The flow of the game punishes passive plays when you could have made a more aggressive play while losing, making the lead even wider. The only way to flip the flow of the game is to make a successful high-risk, ballsy play that turns the disadvantage onto your opponent, in other words, shifting the flow of the game into your favor. Again, I know this is complicated, but let me try my best to come up with a real-life version everyone can understand. A perfect example is actually the 2019 College Football Iron Bowl between Auburn and Alabama. Sorry to all those anime fans out there who have no more knowledge of football than they do mahjong, but please try to stick with me. This is a big rivalry game, so it's a really good comparison to all the intense moments in Akagi, because this is a really important game that only happens once a year. The game is tied 10-10 with 5 minutes left in the second half after a rigorous first quarter. Alabama is favored to win, so even during a tie, the flow of the game is slightly in their favor, and Auburn would have to make a big play to get the momentum back on their side. Well, wouldn't you know it, Alabama throws a pick six, turning over the ball and giving Auburn a score all at once, which immediately puts the flow of the game into Auburn's favor. So now obviously with little time left in the half, Alabama needs to do something quick to get the flow of the game back. So they manage to return the immediate kickoff for a touchdown, which ties up the game but gives them an even better flow of the game than they had originally for coming back like that. With the flow of the game in Alabama's favor now, they managed to force a fumble and get a turnover that resulted in another touchdown, putting them in the lead 24-17. Well, now the flow of the game is severely against Auburn, so they need to make a really high risk, high reward play. So what do? The quarterback makes a really risky throw to the wide receiver in the end zone who barely catches it and gets the touchdown. Before Auburn gets the lead back though, Alabama, using the flow of the game, gets another touchdown. Auburn gets a field goal before the half ends, but the flow of the game is still on Alabama's side at this point. Later in the second half, after Auburn's chipped away at Alabama's lead and the flow of the game a little more, Alabama makes a mistake right as they're going to score. They accidentally underthrow a pass and Auburn takes the opportunity to intercept the ball and get a touchdown, tremendously changing the flow of the game. In the fourth quarter, after a touchdown and a field goal, the flow of the game has become more neutral but still in Auburn's favor. But Alabama throws a deep pass and gets a touchdown with 13 minutes left, which, you guessed it, changes the flow of the game into their favor. Now Auburn is losing in its third down. Auburn decides to pick a running play, which is actually really risky on a third down, and it looks like the play is going to end badly, but moments like these are turning points for the flow of the game. If Auburn can get out of this by doing something crazy and scoring, then the flow of the game significantly changes. And oh wow, would you look at that, they did. This gave Auburn a huge lead for flow of the game, and on Alabama's last attempt to score on fourth down, instead of risking it all for the win, they wanted to play passively and settle for a tie that would go into overtime. And if you remember what I said, according to the gods of game flow, this is not what you're supposed to do. So I wonder what happened. Oh, they missed the field goal and Auburn won the game and that's the final score. Maybe that explanation of flow of the game is a little ridiculous, but hopefully you get the idea now at least. Oh, I just confused you more since anime fans don't generally watch football? Well, if you want to learn more about the flow of the game, then boy do I have the anime for you. The flow of the game isn't the main point of the anime or anything, it's just another really cool concept that helps the story pacing a lot and adds an interesting dynamic to how everything plays out. But seriously, this anime is really good in pretty much every aspect. The art style looks really good, the story pacing is more S tier than Joker and Smash Ultimate, the mystery aspect of the show is appealing, and the individual characters are also all really interesting and each individually encourages you to keep watching the show. The way the anime combines all of these good traits together into a complete story is what really makes it amazing, and Akagi didn't overstay its welcome either with only 26 episodes. Honestly, if it was much longer, I would understand if people got tired of it, but the anime length was perfect and made it a nice complete anime worth watching that didn't take too much time out of your life. The manga, on the other hand, I know the fact that the anime is about mahjong is going to be hard to get over, but I promise you that if you can get over that, then you'll love the show. That's a Tooterp guarantee. So I try not to spoil this anime, by the way, in case you want to watch it. And I know this video is called the best anime that you will never watch. Sometimes you just probably shouldn't listen to me, and I really recommend you give this anime a try, because it's really good. Hey, wait a minute.
I ain't gonna say too much.